Now, let's take a quick look at the logic itself. And we'll start with something and say that we just want to create a house pool. We want something that's going to apply to all of our restaurant employees at all locations with it. So we'll drill into one specific. And then we'll say, okay, we want this to take effect from today going forward. And we do offer a schedule feature. So if you have weekends that are very different, or you supply different staff on maybe Sundays for either football games, or you do something like a brunch, no problem at all there. So we can handle a bunch of items here, but for now, we'll say this should apply to all days, 24/7 across the week. We can look at different items. Do we want to include gratuity service charges and gift cards? Yes or no? Yes. And then at what frequency do we want to distribute these tips? We have several proprietary methods, such as time of sale. That is our by far most popular method of transferring tips. And what that looks at is who was working at the actual time the tip was made. But what most restaurateurs will be familiar with is what's called a daily distribution. And this is where we look at, employee A works 4 hours in the morning, employee B works 4 hours in the evening. They're all going to remove the exact same amount out of that tip pool because they work the same number of hours. Different use cases for every situation. We typically find restaurants default to daily because that is what they're familiar with and that is what they know. However, there are several other methods that we do recommend investigating and seeing what you can get with. Next up, we want to see who should be included in this tip pool. And in this scenario, we're going to go ahead and include everyone. We're going to say that all job codes are involved in this because it is a house pool. Now, that does not mean that we want to treat all of them equally as far as how the tips are distributed. We may say, hey, that our bartenders and our servers are actually doing the lion's share of the work here. Our supporting staff is fabulous, and they do lead to a better guest experience. We want to make sure they are included, but we do not want them taking on the majority of those tips. That should be out there for our sales and revenue earners, right? That's our servers and bartenders actually interacting and making those sales and those upsells to our guests. So we would simply click this configure distribution points. And then we would go through and say, hey, I think the bartender should have a weight of 5 here, and the server probably a weight of 4. The next most important, let's say, is the host and the expo. They are going to lead directly to that guest experience. And now we'll look at this nice little summary. Say, yeah, this makes sense. For every $10 that are coming in, we want the majority of it going to the bartenders, then slightly more to the servers, and then expo, host, and so on. And then we simply click submit. And now that rule is live. And so if I quickly jump back into the breakdown, when we see over here the tip pool gross and the tip pool net, you'll start to see which job codes are benefiting from this. And benefiting from a tip pool are typically the non-revenue earners, of course. And then the people that are paying more into the tip pool than they receive are those direct revenue earners. However, they are, of course, reliant on the supporting staff, the individuals, to get those tables turned over, to get them cleaned, to get that food run out on time, and those drinks made from the bartender and delivered to our guests. So if we wanted to look at one more example, one of our most popular examples that we will see, it's going to be tipping out to the bartender. And so we will call this very simply server to bartender. Same exact piece as we can look at effective date in our schedule. But for now, let's just dive exactly into what we want. And in this scenario, we're going to give up 2.5% of sales of only beer, liquor, and wine. And why are we doing that? The bartender is not helping with the appetizers, the desserts, the entrees, or the no categories, things that might be the gift cards, or if you have a merchandise shop on site. Bartender isn't contributing to that, and we don't want the server to lose their tips on those specific sales. All we are looking at is making sure that they are fairly compensated for the drinks they're putting from the well and getting to the servers to run out to the floor. So with that, we'll actually take this one to time of sale. So what that means is the bartenders that will be being tipped out are only those bartenders that are on the clock while that server is on the clock and that check is running up. So only the bartenders that are working during those drinks being made will be receiving tips from that individual server. And next, we will look at who we're collecting this from. Of course, we are collecting this from the server and we are distributing to the bartender. When you click submit here, same exact piece. This rule is now immediately into effect. We had immediate effect available. And so every sale from this moment going forward will have that server tipping up 2.5% of alcohol sales to the bartender.